Hey everybody, Christopher Small here from CMS Law Firm, and today I want to talk to you about something that comes up quite often when I'm talking to clients about their estate planning needs, and it is 5 trust distribution considerations. And this is actually, although we're doing it live here on Facebook, this is actually going to be my weekly podcast episode. So we're going to be a little bit longer today, and we're going to be a little bit more in depth. And the topic, while it is 5 trust distribution considerations, there's actually a 6th that we're going to talk about too, if I can remember to do it at the end. So let's just dive right in and talk about this kind of stuff. So, when we're talking about trust distribution considerations, to give you a little bit of set the table a little bit. We're talking about revocable living trust, and we're talking about trust distributions after the last spouse is dead. Okay. Nowhere else on Facebook right now are people probably talking about dying, but that's what we do here. So it's okay. It happens to everybody. We are all going to die. But I digress. Trust distribution considerations are often something that sort of hang people up. They can be a source of frustration, a big challenge, because people are just concerned about making sure that they do the right thing, that they leave enough money to their kids often, but not too much, right? You want to. There's a Warren Buffett quote, something like, I want to leave them enough to be able to pursue their passions, but not just be lazy. And that's what we're talking about here. So there are sort of 5 things that I often have people think about, or questions that I ask and things that we cover that kind of help sort of decipher and come to some specifics on these trust distribution schedules. And so let's just talk about them, okay? Number 1. First thing I usually look at and talk about is how old are the beneficiaries? There's a couple reasons for that, obviously. If you have very young beneficiaries, the likelihood that you're going to want them to get a significant amount of money quickly is small. The likelihood that you're going to want them to get a significant amount of money when they are in their 20s is probably pretty small. 30s, maybe still small. If you talk to me, I'm going to try to get you to consider spacing that out as long as you can. Because when it comes to your assets and the value that they provide to your family, it's often the ability to pursue passion, to pursue dreams, to not have money stand in the way as a barrier, more so than provide the creature comforts for life. And you can typically do that with discretionary distributions from a trustee. But again, it all comes down to what you want and what's right for you. But often these are things to consider. If you have very, very old children or very, very old beneficiaries, you may just not care if they get it all, right? They may have already demonstrated to you their ability to handle money well or be responsible. And if that is the case, then you can just give it to them, right? But that's definitely something to consider. Another thing to consider, this is sort of a bonus, I guess, off of this specific trust distribution consideration, is that the way that we set up these revocable living trusts is that they actually are sort of a living document. They can be updated at any time. You can change the terms at any time. You have 100% flexibility. And so what I typically advise people to try to do is to sort of make choices based on what they know today and what their values are, what their philosophy is, and the way that they want the money to help their people as they are now. And then as time goes by, you can always update this and change it as the people that you have as your beneficiaries sort of demonstrate their growth, their maturity, their ability to handle money, their ability to handle life's ups and downs. So if you have like right now I have a 6'4" 2-year-old at my house. I have no idea what they're going to be like as people. I don't know if they're going to be responsible. I don't know if they're going to be into bad things. I don't know much about them at all. So for me to try to figure out how they're going to spend or use this money in the future, it's really a losing proposition. So all I can do right now is think about what I would like the money to be used for in a perfect scenario, and then update as time goes by. Make sense? Good. Okay, then number 2. The second thing to think about when you get to these, when you're answering these questions or thinking about how to distribute your trust assets over time, is how much control do you want your beneficiaries to have. This can manifest itself in several ways. You have, I guess, first of all, you have all the way at this side of the continuum, you're going to have no control at all. The trustee has 100% discretion to distribute, typically for health, support, maintenance, education, and they can do that. So if the beneficiary believes that they need something, they write a letter to the trustee makes a decision. The beneficiary has no control. On this side of the spectrum, you've got all the control, which is essentially an outright distribution over time. Trustee or a beneficiary turns 25, a third is given to them. A check is written, they get it. When they turn 30, a check is written, they get it. And then in the middle, sort of, probably coming closer to this end, is you can have distributions at the request of the beneficiary. And this essentially entails or entitles the beneficiary to ask for money at any time, depending on what the trust says, and the trustee is then directed to distribute it. If you have that middle one and this far one where the trustee has all discretion, you do maintain some security and control over the trust assets, which can be good if there's divorce or bankruptcy or lawsuits, bad habits, things like that. Then some of the assets can probably be protected and maintained. So when it comes to the amount of control that you want your beneficiaries to have when you're talking about trust distributions, those are kind of the three things that you want to think about, okay? Number three, the third consideration, do any of your beneficiaries have special needs? If they do, then you will want to definitely work in the specific language that allows them to essentially have their cake and eat it too. What I mean by that is, if any beneficiary is entitled to any government benefits because of their special needs, you'll want to craft your trust in such a way that the trustee is directed to not release any funds to the beneficiary in a way that is going to jeopardize their eligibility for any of those benefits. And that it can get relatively technical and relatively specific, but if they are aware of this and if the trust language specifically directs them to act in this way, then the trustee will know, the trustee can get help or go read all the rules and then make distributions that provide a tremendous amount of benefit to the beneficiary, but also ensure that no eligibility for those government benefits is taken away. And this can be a really, really huge thing because it's not just money all the time, it's also often access to programs, access to specific help and things like that. So the third consideration when you're thinking about trust distribution is the special needs or lack thereof of the beneficiary. Okay, if you have that, it's very important. Something I ask every single person all the time because it's definitely something that you just don't want to miss. All right. Number four, the fourth question that I ask, or the fourth thing to think about when you're talking about trust distribution considerations is, how interested are you in legacy? How interested are you in these trust funds having an effect over multiple generations? Because you can set it up to have that if you want, but you have to be intentional about it. You have to think about it, and you have to craft language in your trust that sets up the success of a multi-generational type of trust. For example, if you are interested in legacy, if you are interested in your funds helping multiple generations, it's probably not a wise idea to have outright distributions at specific ages. The reason for this is that when your beneficiaries, when your first line beneficiaries hit a certain age, all the money's going to be gone. The money's going to get kicked out of the trust and it will be gone. You know, another thing to consider is if you have a lot of money, if you have high level of assets, you may be able to create a multi-generational trust without too much effort. Compound interest and a discretionary trustee may be able to allow your first line beneficiaries, which would be your kids, to go to school, to sort of pursue their passion, pursue their dreams, do the things that they need to do, and leave a tremendous amount of money for grandkids and great-grandkids and down the line. The only thing to consider when you're doing multi-generational trust, though, is that typically as you go down each generation, more and more people come into play, right? So think about it like this. There's typically like the two of you at the top, and then let's say you have 2 kids, okay? So you have those 2 down there. If they have more than 1 kid each, you all of a sudden have 4 here. And then if all 4 of those have 2 kids, then you've got 8. So you can see how it multiplies pretty quickly, and the trust can then be depleted rather quickly in that way. That's what happened to the Vanderbilts. So Vanderbilt University, they are, they used to have a huge trust fund. I think Cornelius Vanderbilt is the guy's name. He's a railroad guy. He was super rich, and he said his trust fund not very great, and so certain levels of beneficiaries sort of made some terrible investments, spent all the money, but then they also had the effect of all these compounds down the line, and so the beneficiaries today, I think it's only 4 or 5 generations later, basically get nothing. Anderson Cooper from CNN, I think he hosts a New Year's Eve party with Andy Cohen, maybe? I know too much random pop trivia. He is actually, I believe, a descendant of the Vanderbilts, but he gets nothing. So he lost out. And that's a problem. That's why you want to get somebody that will at least help you think about these things so you can try to set them up in a way that works for you, okay? So that's the fourth thing, legacy. Are you interested in legacy? And then number 5, the 5th consideration, really, and this one is, can they make good decisions on their own? Will they make the right decisions on their own, okay? And this really is specific to one type of asset, and that is if you have an IRA, if you have a big IRA, there are some considerations that you want to make where you may not think about the same things if you have other types of assets, okay? So with an IRA, retirement account, basically 401k, these types of things, when you die, then the beneficiary of your retirement account has 3 basic options. Option number 1 is they can cash the whole thing out right now. Okay, they can just pull it all out. They have to pay income tax on that, okay? Though, so if it's a big number, they're gonna pay a big tax. Whatever it is right now, 40% or 39.7% or whatever, is what they likely will pay on what they pull out of that, okay? Which you may not wanna do because it's getting chopped up. This is all your hard-earned retirement money just getting paid off to the government. The second thing that they can do is they can opt for a 5-year distribution schedule. So on year 1, they're gonna take 1/5 of the balance. On year 2, they're gonna take 2/5, and on and on. But you have the same income tax problem, because if you remember, retirement accounts, they typically are paid in with pre-tax money. So you don't pay taxes until you take the money out. So whether it's you that takes the money out or your beneficiary that takes the money out, Uncle Sam is getting paid, okay? That's the second option. The third option is what's called stretch the IRA. So your beneficiary could take your IRA account and stretch it over their lifetime, over their sort of actuarial table lifetime, and then take distributions based on that. This is the smartest choice, unless somebody needs the money like right away for something, because it provides a significant opportunity for that money to grow, and it essentially operates as a built-in retirement account for your beneficiaries, okay? The problem is that your beneficiaries have to be smart enough to opt into this this option, essentially. It can make huge things. So for example, for me, I am 38 years old. Let's say my mom passed away and she gave me her retirement account, right? So I could stretch that out and probably take it over like a 50-year timeline, which means that this year I'm taking only 1/50th, or what is that? What's 1/50th? 2% of the total balance of the IRA. So assuming the market grows at all, there's gonna be more money in there than there was this year when I take it out. Next time I'm gonna take 2/50ths out, and then on and on and on, right, over time. So by the time I get to 49/50ths, it's gonna be a big number. So I'm gonna have to pay income tax on that, but it's gonna be in little chunks until you start to get to the end. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have a trust, you can direct the trustee to opt in for the stretch IRA option. One caveat to that real quick, if you're gonna have multiple beneficiaries in a trust, there are some other considerations to make, because you can end up having to stretch it off of the oldest person, the oldest beneficiary that's in the trust. This can create problems. If you have beneficiaries in the trust that are not persons, you can also have problems. That's why you talk to someone like me for help, okay? And by the way, if you ever want some help, you can talk to me for free. You literally can talk to me for free. Just go to cmslawfirm.com /strategy session. You can talk to me. You can also call me if you really want to, 206-659-1512. Feel free to do either one of those things. You just book a time and we talk. It's fantastic, in person or over the phone. But in any event, this IRA thing can be a big factor for people because a lot of people will sock away a tremendous amount of money in their retirement accounts. And if you die before you get to spend it all, it's going to go down to your kids or to your other beneficiaries. And sometimes you need to help them make the right decision for their long-term best interests. Okay? Finally, last but not least, and this is sort of a trust distribution consideration. This is the bonus one that I was talking about at the very beginning. And this really applies to blended families. If you come from a blended family and you want to make sure that your trust is distributed to each spouse's kids, you're going to have to do some special planning, some special sort of trust setup to ensure that that happens. You can still create a scenario where the surviving spouse has access to the assets of everyone to live off of and use if they need it, but you can also sort of limit the way that certain assets are used and also then ensure that the first spouse to die's assets go to their kids. Okay, that's gonna be a shorty. I just talked about it a couple videos ago, so if you are seeing this and you want to know more, like scroll up or scroll down, go to YouTube. You can find it. It says something like some blended families is the name. So anyway, that's it. So again, like I said, longer form content today. We do this every Tuesday, essentially. If you like this episode, hit the like button. If you know someone that is thinking about creating a trust and they are wondering how to set up the distributions, share this with them. If you have a question, if you think I said something stupid, leave a comment. If you think I said something smart, leave a comment. And in any event, thank you for your time. And again, if you need any help, if you want to talk, cmslawfirm.com/strategy session. You can talk to me for free. All right, that is it for today. Thank you so much. And I'll be here again to talk to you probably tomorrow. Bye.